way of unification. I don't see it happening in many other ways.
Is there a role for heroes in that process?
Well, maybe we're all heroic in that process. If there's a unity among human beings, then nobody stands out. We've become a unified factor. And the people that talk about hive mind or all is one, or these various kinds of ideas of unification, then and of course the fear for somebody who is very identified with their individuality is, oh, I'm going to get swept up in the herd, in the crowd, and that's one of the things that the rationalists talk about. Oh, herd mentality, that's look at Hitler and and that's the downside of it. The upside, just a small example, back to the earthquake. When those people were outside, there was a unity, there was a unification there that was clear. We were all human beings. There weren't black people and white people and Latino people. There were folks out there that were experiencing a unified experience, and it was a scary one. That's one of the ways. Think of what that could be if it was an experience of love. Sure. And I think about the first BN in the 60s in San Francisco, which I happened to be at, being in. And, there were several of us out of the 100,000 that had taken LSD together. And there was a unity there. Now, you can call it a hallucination or whatever. It's up to whoever's listening. But there was a sense of unity and a connectedness that was palpable. And once again, it can be looked at as the drug, although I've seen it happen in therapy groups. I've had experiences as a group leader where something has broken through with an individual, maybe a deep insight, an epiphany or something, and everyone is infected by it. And they're not unconscious, they're becoming more aware, more conscious, and there's a unification. Now, my question, the thing that I look at is, what if that's just sitting there right now in everybody all the time? What if that's 24/7 and we just haven't gotten the trigger to activate that? The mystic Gurdjieff, he talked about the brain having a trigger. He called it the KUNDABUFFER. And he said the problem is the KUNDABUFFER is off and we need to open it up and then we'll experience this unity. It's there. And its potential, the unity is already there. It's like I remember one friend of mine that took mescaline, and I was sitting for him. Said he needed a ride around, and he started coming on, and this smile just started on his face, and it got bigger and bigger. It looked like it was going to get past his face. And his words were, "Oh, I remember. Now I remember." And what he talked about was, I forget who I am. I have all this conditioning. I have all this culture that helps me pretend to be this self-image, helps me pretend to be this William or this Christopher or whatever. And yet underneath it, there's this awareness that's awakeful. That and as much as he talked about it, it's much more clear. It's much more real. There's a reality to it that's infinitely deeper than the social self can possibly give you.
So, maybe the journey between the maternity ward and the crematorium is one where you have a chance to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are those who wake up on that journey, and there are those who are asleep the whole time.
Right. It's like one of my first psychology teachers. I was a young student, not too young, but yeah. And went into the class. It's a big class. And the guy came in and he said, "Good afternoon, I'm Professor so-and-so. The vast majority of people are dead by the time they're 24 years old. Think about that. We'll talk about it next week." Turned around and walked out. Hey. And we talked about that particular statement for the class. And I mean, it went all over the place, but
Sure.
what an amazing lecture that was. One of the best lectures I've ever gone to. And it's kept me thinking. It activated a thing inside. Getting back to simplicity. Just this one statement. It's like, whoa, this is...
You know, again, it's Socrates talking about a life unexamined is not worth living.
Yeah.
And it's that examination, and it's and by examining, you're looking what's inside that box.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would want to add an addendum to Socrates, because he's talking about examination, which would be a thought process. I would have to add the life that's not embraced, examined and embraced.
Experienced.
Yes.
Experienced.
Yeah.
Experienced and examined at the same time.
Exactly.
And in some ways, this is where we're going a little bit wobbly, because our ability now to experience is becoming digitized. The whole notion, I mean, most experience has been analog. You actually, you had a wrench and you would tighten up a bolt, or you would take apart a carburetor in the days when you could do that on cars, and now they're just massive computers. And the technicians are computer scientists who are doing these kinds of things. So technology has gradually taken us out of all kinds of spheres of experience.
Sure.
Whether it's a supermarket, whether it's the way cars are made, or air conditioning, or the rest of it, is that we find ourselves living in gradually smaller and smaller experiential space. And we've hardly noticed that what's been taken from us is the experience in exchange for brand items and iconic things that allow us to display status, allow us to display our belief system as a substitute. And people are very unhappy because it doesn't do the trick.
Well, the difficulty is the way that the system is set up is, first of all, it's an addictive system. It's a stimulant. You know, we live in a cocaine culture. So we're being hit with stimulation. And it doesn't work unless the stimulation increases. And I would imagine at some point the whole thing will fall apart. But, you know, if you look at film over the last few years, you look at, say, the first Terminator, which was far out, you know, it's like, wow, look at that special effects. And then you go to something that's happened, what was there was one movie where they went, it was a sci-fi movie, and there was a different race of people, and they were blue. And, Avatar, yeah. You go and you look at Avatar as compared to Terminator, and like Avatar, whoa, you know.
Sure.
And incidentally, I heard that was an ayahuasca movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And there's
Interstellar now. You look at Interstellar.
Yeah, Interstellar.
And compare that with, say, Gravity, the film before.
Yeah.
You just see technologically that they're coming up with things that go, wow.
Yeah,
but
the stimulation level.
But you just know 10 or 15 years, people are going to look back at Interstellar and the way we look back at Flash Gordon.
Right, yeah. And, I mean, that's one of the interesting things that's happening. And the idea of looking out and getting the stimulation from outside is now shifting. And the neuropsychology, we're looking at in. And, you know, a lot of the sci-fi stuff has brain implants and, you know, the kinds of things where the stimulation becomes 100% more as a result of directly implanting in the brain or stimulation or whatever. Leary talked about that in the 60s. You know. He said the psychedelics would gradually be dismissed, and we would be utilizing brain stimulation to change our consciousness.
Yeah.